So I hope that you all will have a very insightful session ahead today. Thank you. Over to you, Sarita.
Great. Thank you so much, Suman. And thanks everyone for joining in on Saturday morning. Let me share my screen and let's immediately start with the session. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so what we are going to do in today's session is we are going to quickly look at how do you prepare for finance interviews, right? How do you prepare for that? Okay, and we'll quickly look at what careers, what all different finance careers are, what do recruiters look for, and the 5 pillars of interview prep, right? Which is about your financial statement and ratio analysis, financial modeling. Now, financial modeling is a very important skill set if you are targeting any of the front end finance careers, right? Be it corporate finance, be it investment banking, be it project finance in banks, be it corporate or commercial banking, be it roles in PVC firms. Financial modeling and valuation, very important skills that you need to have, right? Current affairs. Now, lot of our finance theories have been built by what's happening in the markets. Lot of investment decisions get influenced by what's happening currently, right? So you might do investments after a great deal of analysis, but let's say war breaks out, right? Your investment will go for a toss. And that is where understanding what's happening in the world is very important, right? For performing well in finance roles and hence for preparing for your finance interviews. And then we look at behavioral fit questions. Those typically are asked to figure out, right, whether you will fit in the team that they're looking at. And we will quickly have a look at if you want to prepare in a month, what could be your 4 week preparation plan or finance interviews. So that's what we'll cover today. A little bit more about myself than what Suman had covered. So as she mentioned, I did my MBA from IIM Ahmedabad 2006-8 batch. Post that, have been working in investment banking, finance strategy roles across, right? I worked as a transaction advisor, investment banker. I had started my own firm where I used to do finance and transaction advisory. Then I had also consulted multiple clients on different transactions. These transactions range from fundraising, restructuring, multiple kinds of transaction across different domains. Right, that is what my background has been about. Apart from that, I also worked, with the faculty at IIM Bangalore and co-authored case studies with them. And these are all published at the Harvard Business Publishing. So if you go to Harvard Business Publishing, just put my name, you will find some 8, 9 different case studies. Others are at University of Michigan. I started GoCrackIt along with my co-founder Alok in 2018. And the whole objective that we started GoCrackIt is to help students and professionals to have happy and successful careers. So personally, I've mentored more than 3,000 students across mostly finance and strategy consulting, and I have conducted a large amount of such workshops. So at GoCrackIt, we work with institutions, we work with individuals, and the whole objective is to help them towards career success. Right. So that's about myself. Let's look at quickly finance. Anybody, why do you want to get into finance? So although I know it's a short session, but let's keep it engaging. Uh, why do you want to get into finance? What brings you here on a Saturday morning? Why finance? See, the why is very important. The how will follow and what will also follow. Anyone? Why do you want to get into finance? Yes, Kritika?
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes.
Um, Ma'am, I would like to go with the finance because it is very important for us to manage our expenses and income. So that's the reason I think it's very important for us to know and have a knowledge about the finance.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Okay. So let me tell you what excited me, right, in terms of finance, right? So Definitely during MBA there were a lot of different career options. Typically at tier one B schools, they will say either you get into consulting, finance, or marketing, right? I mean, now product management has come in, general management is also there. Typically, those are the roles that you would get into because good brand companies, great pay packages, right? So, my moral of the story is yes, finance pays you well because typically finance teams are very small. PVC teams, very small teams. Investment banking, very small teams. And the kind of money that you make, because you're actually working on deals, you're actually working on setting up assets, making investments, right? So that is where obviously the pay packages are great. However, finance also sits where it is at the level where strategy also happens. So let's say that Aditya Birla wants to get into gold mining. Okay, because I mean there are some gold mines which are found, and Aditya is Birla is into mining anyways. They're into cement, they're into multiple such things. They decide that they want to get into gold mining. Okay. Now, strategically, they would have figured out that yes, this is a great decision because there is one huge demand for gold. Second, the resource seem good. Third, the investments that we make, and now finance comes into picture, right? That given the investments that you make, is it fair that you get the right returns on the investments that you make? Second, if you decide that, okay, you're going to get good returns, where do you get the money from? Should you take equity? Should you take debt? Where should you take money from to make these kind of investments? Right? That is where finance comes into picture. So finance is where which drives the growth of an organization, and also as finance you're always reviewing what is happening in the organization, competition, so that you make better choices for the organization. So that's the exciting part about finance, right? uh, so again, let's take one more example, right? So here I've shown Haldiram, right? Haldiram, the reason that I've shown is because recently, a few months ago, Temasek, which is a Singapore sovereign private equity fund, had invested in Haldiram. Okay. Now, why did they invest? Typically, Temasek. So, Temasek is a private equity firm. All the private equity firms have got some kind of a thesis, right? They say that for Temasek, the thesis is that the business should be in demand and growing for the next 10 years. Now, why Haldiram? Because of the large disposable incomes that Indians are having, and the larger, lower and middle class, which is having more disposable income. Haldiram has packets of 10 rupees also, right? That is one where India growth is going to happen. Now, Haldiram is also going to expand, use this money for global expansion, where the margins will be higher. Okay. So that is where, and why global expansion now? The Indian diaspora, which is going outside, they also need products which are Indian, right? And they are ready to pay a premium for that. So that's the next bit. So Temasek had invested earlier in 1994 in ICICI Bank and Axis Bank. That time, 1991 was when the Indian markets had opened up, okay, for foreign investments, right? And that is where Temasek came in, figuring out that there is a huge software services sector growing, which will create a huge middle class, which will have monthly income. If you want to have monthly income, that means you will need access to banking and financial services. That is where they had made those investments, right? So this is how, right? I mean, just be aware of what's happening around you and apply finance, right? Why does it make financial sense to do what people are doing? Okay. So now in this deal, right, there is this Haldiram Temasek deal. You will use certain skill sets, right? As I said, valuation and financial modeling. Temasek had invested 8,500 crores and got 10% of Haldiram. That means Haldiram was valued at 85,000 crores. Does it make sense to value Haldiram at 85,000 crores? How do you figure out? You do deal analysis. Okay. But the roles that are there here are financial advisor. So PwC was the financial advisor for Haldiram. Now there would be a team of people who are there in PwC, or team of advisors who are advising Temasek, Haldiram internal corporate finance team is there. Temasek corporate finance team is there. That is where people like you and me would be working to help these kind of deals happen, right? And the skill sets that you need for those deals are these, right? Valuation, advisory, family business. Now, Haldiram had to do a lot of restructuring before this deal happened. There was the Nagpur faction, there was the Delhi faction, everything had to come together. Now, this was about cross border financing. Singapore fund, Temasek, investing in India, right? So there is a cross border also happening. Even so, and you need specialist to advise on that. Why? Because when you do cross border, you also need hedging. Indian currency different, Singapore dollars different, or maybe they had invested in US dollars. You need to do hedging. You need expertise for that also, right? Capital markets. Eventually, Haldiram will do an IPO, right? That is where they have got this investment from, private equity fund. Private equity fund will also get some exit at the time of IPO. So there are people who do capital market transactions, IPOs, FPOs, right? There are teams, and again, that is where we have opportunities over there as jobs. Okay. And risk management. Risk is there at all kinds of financial transactions. So understanding what roles are behind the deals that happen, what roles are behind the organizations that operate is very important. As a first step today, what you should do is go to LinkedIn, find out different people who have worked in the finance domains and understand their career journeys. If they have written something over here, they would have written, right, that prepared financial models. So, for example, fundamental equity, emerging markets, buy side investment professional. Fixed income derivatives trading, predominantly in short term interest rates for Eurozone and Swiss. Now, this one line, you have to ask further questions. What, why, what, why? What is fixed income derivatives? Who trades fixed income derivatives? What are short term interest rates? Markets. What happens in the Eurozone market? What happens in the Swiss market? The moment you ask these questions, find out. And you have to just take a screenshot, put it to ChatGPT. It will tell you everything, but you have to understand this. You can't say that ChatGPT will tell me. No, you need to have a fundamental understanding of what happens. And hence, a great way is to see this person has written in detail what all he has done. Okay. So do this LinkedIn research to figure out what happens. So typical careers are, as I said, private equity, venture capital, portfolio management. So you have all these mutual funds, right? They are also called as buy side because see these are all buy side careers because they have the money. With the money, they are going to do the investments. There are research why because you have to figure out what investment that you should be making. Then investment banking comes at both buy side as well as sell side, right? Then there is equity research. Sell side means you are selling off an asset or you are selling off a company, right? Or you are actually selling to get in more clients. That is also sell side. Okay. Commercial banking, typically all your banks, SBI, HDFC, ICICI Bank, they have something called as corporate and commercial banking, which will provide banking services to corporates. They might provide you project finance, they might provide you supply chain finance, they might provide you sustainable finance, they would provide multiple financial services to you. Again, they need finance professionals for these careers. Corporate finance, these are the careers, as I said, inside the organization. So you're part of the finance and accounts team, right? Or you're part of the corporate finance team, right? Where the first role, corporate growth development, what we discussed, Aditya Birla Gold Mine. Investor relations, every listed company needs to have a department called as investor relations, which will take care of the investors. SEBI has mandated this. So go to website of any listed company and you will find this investor relations. Okay. Treasury, how do you invest the additional cash that you have? Infosys, for example, sitting on a pile of cash. Financial planning and analysis, how do you budget for the future years? All of this also, all the big fours, they will have this, right? Transaction advisory, due diligence, valuation. Wealth management is a different game, right? Again, there are specific advisors for wealth management. There are banks who also provide the wealth management advisory. Risk, as I said, everywhere. Regulatory advisory, very important. All the financial services across the world are regulated. If you do not adhere to the regulations, it is a problem. Okay, and hence it is very important to be up to date on all the regulations. Okay, and then there are some tech careers also, digital transformation, fintech. So again, for example, if you have seen this insurance products which airline sales, whenever you go to buy a ticket, it will say for 199 rupees you buy this insurance also. So that's a proper financial product, but enabled through technology. A human can't sell this kind of a product. Okay. So what do recruiters look for, right, in this different kind of roles? In investment banking, M&A, PVC kind of roles, they want to understand whether you can frame a deal thesis and defend why a transaction makes strategic and financial sense. Does it make sense for Aditya Birla to buy a gold mining company if they're going to get into gold mining? Yes. Does it make sense to buy an equipment company for mining? Maybe. Backward integration. So strategy defines, right, what kind of deal that you're going to make, right? Strong valuation judgment, right? Which valuation method to use, when and what. Okay. Comfort with ambiguity. You will never have complete data. Okay. And the timeline will always be tight. Okay. So these are the kind of key things that recruiters look at. Corporate finance, capital allocation, where to invest, divest, conserve cash, right? What typically would be your role in the corporate finance team of the Aditya Birla Group? Markets or asset management. Now, these are the folks working in asset management companies. Here, you need to have a very independent ability to analyze investments. Do not go with the flow. Just because everybody is investing in Reliance should not mean that you should also invest in Reliance. If it makes sense to you, right? Follow the principles of what Warren Buffett and Peter Lynch had laid down, right? Uh, Again, you could have a contra call also on that, right? But you should be independently be able to make judgments for investment. Okay, that is what is required for those kind of roles. Fintech, ability to act as somebody who understands users, strong grasp of unit economics, credit risk, customer lifetime value, right? So this is between product management and finance, right? Both kind of roles. So the essential skills are financial analysis, cash flow, current affairs, problem solving, financial modeling, and industry company analysis. What do you do for investment prep, financial statement and ratio analysis? You should be able to tell the differences between cash flow, balance sheet, P&L, which is used what kind of information you get from that. Doing ratios, your vertical ratios, your horizontal ratios, year on year, quarter on quarter kind of ratios. Now for financial modeling, assumptions are very important, right? That is where your financial model is based upon. Okay. The assumptions come from real contract documents. When I was working at EY as an investment banker and I was advising an power client, okay, I was advising the power sector company to raise funds without a contract memorandum of understanding that somebody is going to purchase my power, that L&T is going to give me, build my power plant in whatever 600 crores, and the cost is going to remain the same for the next 6 months till I give the contract. Nobody is going to entertain me in banks or investors if I don't have full proof contracts. My assumptions can't come from Google. My assumptions can't come from Google. They have to come from real contracts. Okay. Now, for your practice purpose, you can do that. Take assumptions from Google. But if you are asked question in the interview, where will you take assumptions from? Right? It has to be realistic. It has to be market driven. Okay. So these are the kind of questions which could be asked for financial modeling. Valuation, which kind of methods, when do you use them? And then they will ask you to walk through the method. Like how do you do DCF? How do you find out free cash flow to the firm? How do you compute WACC? Right? All those things would be required. Current affairs, as I said, very much required. And we'll look at some questions. Problem solving. Now, this is required because, as I said, you have to work in ambiguous, uncertain situations. Okay. And hence, some of the companies may ask some small guesstimates, probability, puzzles, case studies, depending upon what role that they're looking at. So, if you're applying to a very quant heavy role, they will ask you probability questions. That is given. Okay. Behavioral and fit questions, right? Why do they ask this? See, finance roles are places where you will work for 14 hours a day. Are you the person who I want to work for 14 hours? Okay. So that is where they are looking at behavioral and fitment questions. One, will you be able to work for 14 hours? Second, do I want to work with you for 14 hours? Can you work in team? And most important, can I put you in front of my client? Are you a client ready person? Communication skills, very important. Ability to communicate with the clients, very important, right? That is where this behavioral and fit questions are asked. So here we have shared a link. You can go through it. Some questions are there. Typically for financial statement and this, right? What could be the questions? Nuance questions, right? Two companies have identical EBITDA margins, but one consistently generates higher free cash flow. EBITDA margin same, higher free cash flow. What could explain this? Where would you see it in the financial statements, right? So typically, you need to look at both your P&L and cash flow, right? Higher FCF can come from now. What is the formula for free cash flow? It is EBIT into 1 minus tax, right? Plus depreciation amortization minus capital expenditure minus changes in working capital. So you have to analyze what is happening where, right? If your EBIT is same, is it a problem because of depreciation and amortization? Is it a problem of capex? Is it a issue with the working capital, right? That is where you need to analyze all these things. Okay. Then a company's revenue is growing at 20%, but operating cash flow is flat. What is this a red flag? How would you diagnose this issue using ratios, right? So revenue is growing at 20%, but your cash flow is flat. So now what happens if you, this is what happened with Pages, right? They recognized a lot of revenue. Cash was yet to come. Okay. Hence inflated their, what their financial statements, valuation, etc. Right? So you have to really go and see what is the business model. When do they recognize the revenue? When does the cash actually come? That is how you analyze these things. So you should expect these kind of nuanced interview questions, right? Now, similarly, right, if same net profit margin, one trades at a higher valuation, what will you look at and what could justify it? So again, see, there is no, you can't give a yes or no answer. You should say that I will have to analyze this, I will have to find this out. Only then you can give an answer to such nuanced questions. Okay. Financial modeling, what could be the questions? How do you decide the right level of detail in a financial model? Okay. So, for example, when you do depreciation, right? If you are building a model for, let's say, power plant, when you do depreciation, you should not do it for all items. Find out the item with highest value, and then you do depreciation as per that. So, don't over engineer. Don't go into a lot of details in building the financial model. Okay. Yeah, so these are the different methods for valuation. Okay, what is required? I will share all of this. You will get this. Okay. Now, what question will be asked? What is the advantage of using DCF? What is the disadvantage of using DCF? Right? Those are the kind of questions that you could be asked in the interviews. Right? Advantages and disadvantages. Which method will you use when? Right? Those are the valuation questions. Okay. Current affairs. What do you think of the Indian stock market? Is it overheated? What is your point of view? Any recent RBI policies there, right? What's your point of view, right? What are the economic implications of India being reported as the fourth largest economy globally, right? So these are the questions. Now again, the questions won't come out of the blue. So for example, last question. What are the implications of initiatives like sustainability linked financing for Indian REITs? Now, either you are interviewing for an REIT or a real estate company. In that case, definitely they will ask you questions on that. Or you have done some project on REITs, right? And hence the question could come from that. So the current affairs questions would be related to your profile, what you have done, or to the target company that you're applying to. Or if it's like a, like, if, market has crashed, right, by let's say 20%, definitely you could be asked a question on that, right? So otherwise, these nuanced questions on current affairs are not going to come out of the blue. They will be linked to your profile. Okay, that is where the questions will come, or your target company, as I said. Okay. Situational behavior. Would I like to have you on my team? Would you be there at 3:30 a.m. before signing the SHA sign? So SHA is a shareholder agreement. The moment I'm selling a company to some other company, I'm going to give my shares to that company, right? So that shareholder agreement happens. How do you respond to these kind of questions? So we have here, if you go to, Suman can share the links. We have a lot of resources for your preparation also. So we have question answers on valuation, M&A, investment banking. You can go through additional questions as well, right? Problem solving questions. Why? Because as I said, they will ask you, it could be a case study, right? Which they ask you, or it could be a guesstimate, right? To understand whether you can work in these kind of situations. Now, M&A, right? How do you prepare on M&A? Let's say you're applying for an M&A role. This is PwC's report, and they do this every quarter or 6 monthly. And which are the major deals that have happened? They have mentioned that. Now, at least you should be prepared with one deal. Okay. And when I say, now, see here, very interesting thing here. Retail and consumer has got maximum number of deals, deal volume maximum, but deal value is very low. Vis-a-vis financial services, number of deals only 47, but deal value 4113. Okay, that's because large value deals have happened in this sector. Now, important to make a note of this, because if you want to get into a company which is in focusing in doing deals, you rather get into a financial services deal making company, because that is where you would be working on lesser deals but high ticket size. That makes more sense. Okay. Yeah. So Reliance had acquired a Disney Hotstar. You have to evaluate this. So what is the strategy? Find out the synergy, find out what is the business model, what will be the financial projections, how will you do valuation. So when I say you should know the deal, you should know the numbers and the why, right? Reliance has 63.16% stake. Somebody has some other stake. That is what the deal is about. What is LBO? LBO is leverage buyout. Why this cookies? Because I will tell you why this cookies. Yeah. So the Oreo cookies were manufactured by Nabisco. Nabisco was part of RJR Nabisco, and KKR, Kohler Travis Robert, which is a private equity firm. In 1988, they had made a very aggressive deal to buy out this company. Eventually, it did not go well, but that is what had started the entire LBO thing in the States. There is a movie called as Barbarians at the Gate. You can watch that today evening, so that you can know about this deal. Okay. In India, not a lot of LBO deals happen because RBI has very stringent guidelines. You can't borrow against a company that you're going to acquire. Okay. And these are the interview questions which will be asked in LBO. Okay. Yeah, corporate banking. I think, yeah, you can go through this. Similar kind of, as I said, going through this LinkedIn profiles will give you a lot of insights in terms of what is the work done, and hence preparation for your interview for that typical role. Okay. Risk management, again, very important, but I want to cover something on resume building. You can go through it. Now, one more thing which is happening is your AI, which has come into finance, right? So people will ask you, recruiters, that, oh, this AI only can do this. Why do we need you? This is where you need to come in. Okay. You can't say that I have done just comparable company screening. AI can do this fast. Why do we need you? Right? Because AI is already doing that. And then what do you say in that? That AI can do this analysis faster, but asking the right questions, right? Judgment, that is still where AI can't come. And you have to prove that you have got a better judgment. Let AI do the grunt work, but you should be doing the decision making work, right? That is where you come into picture. Now this is very important, right? Today, and this is where AI is already kind of doing all these things. You should be aware of that so that you can prove yourself why you are required in spite of them having the AI. Okay. Yeah, what's the 4 week plan? First week, revise all the basic and advanced finance concepts and financial modeling. Second week, everything on your resume and the projects that you have done. If you have done an internship, if you have done a self initiated project on finance, everything that you have done, revise it thoroughly. Ask finance related questions on the work that you have done. Let's say that you have worked at Marico in sales. I want to understand what is the revenue of Marico, what is the profitability of Marico, which is the segment which is giving maximum revenue to Marico. So it doesn't matter that you have not worked in finance over there. No, you need to prepare on that also. Okay. That is what you will do in the second week. Third week, whatever is are your do a list of top 10 or whatever 5 6 target companies, prepare thoroughly on that. Okay. Their financials, uh, their business models, their industry. And fourth week, so knowing current affairs should start every day. Every day, half an hour, if you see the news channels, ET Now, CNBC, do not scroll on your mobile. Read newspapers. Why? Because when you scroll mobile, they will show you only what you like seeing. Okay, if you like seeing only FMCG, they will show you only that. But when you read a newspaper or even an e-paper, online e-paper, you can read, that is okay. You will get an overview of what things are happening. Mobile is personalizing to what you are seeing. Okay, so don't just rely on mobile for your current affairs. Okay, so read newspapers, watch your CNBC, TV 18, ET Now, half an hour every day. Discuss it with your friends. Discussion will help you remember it better, will also help you get more perspectives. That is how you prepare for your current affairs, right? These are the different resources that we have shared. That is all from my side. Any questions? I can take the questions. Yeah. Interview question. Yeah, that will send Harshvardhan. What interview questions that? Uh, yeah, resources. Maybe you can share Suman that link. Resources link. Let me share that. So Harshvardhan, I have shared the link over here, which is called as GoCrackIt resources. All your situational, behavioral, your investment, banking, valuation, all the questions and answers which could be asked in the interviews is shared over here. Any questions? How do I cold approach HR? Okay, Satvik has a question. So Satvik, typically referrals works the best, right? I mean, cold approach is okay, but referral is better. If you have to do a cold approach, right? Try to approach, do not approach HRs, try to approach the line managers. So, for example, let's say that you're targeting ICICI Bank Treasury Management role. Prepare something, okay, that you know what ICICI Treasury Management could do, right? That these are the issues, that these are the investments that we should do as a part of treasury management. Prepare something interesting for them and send that to the line managers, right? That I'm interested in this role, this is what I've worked upon. That will ignite interest. If you just send a cold mail that hire me, nobody's going to look at that. But if you say that this is the work that I've done, right? This is a small project or small analysis that I've done. Look at this. and interest would be there, right? And you can publish this on LinkedIn also. Okay, do some analysis, publish it on LinkedIn, send it to them that this is what I worked upon. Now, once the moment you start publishing things on LinkedIn which are relevant to the companies which you're aspiring for, it will give you more traction, right? It will also improve your credibility on the LinkedIn also, right? So do that. Cold mailing HRs, I mean, may help, may not help. This is a better way of doing things. How do I build referral and networks? Yeah. So again, start like the session that you're attending today, right? So now I know you, right? And there are some people in this call who know you, right? So typically, if there is, now what next is that you should, if you can, you should try to get a one-on-one discussion so that people remember better. Attend such events online, on campus, where you can make these kind of connections. Reach out to people on LinkedIn, right? Even a cold reach out is fine. Some people will accept, some will not accept, which is okay, right? Now, when you reach out to people, give them something which is valuable to them, right? That is where you so when you start building a network, first start giving to the network. Then you can think of getting something from the network, right? And that is where your analysis will help. If you have a different point of view on something, that will help, right? So that is the kind of work that you do. Start giving it to your network, and your network will grow. Referrals, if you are from any, I mean, I'm sure everybody has studied at some of the other institute. Approach the alumni of that institute. That is the best network that you have. Alumni from your institute who are working in these different roles. So because you're from the same institute, it is definitely going to be a door opener. Okay, so start building your network from alumni. If you have somebody, friends, family, or in these kind of professions, you can reach out to them also. Faculty, right? Typically, your faculty also have good networks. Leverage upon your faculty's networks. They work with industry. They know faculty at other places. So their network is also pretty large. So you should network with somebody who has a larger network, right? That is how you build your network. And large and relevant network, right? I mean, doesn't make sense to, know somebody, in, let's say in the space of art, right? Because you want to get into finance, doesn't make sense for art right now, right? So build those relevant networks, connect to people who are the hub of some other network, like alumni, like faculty. Yeah. Any other questions, anyone? Okay, great then. Thank you so much. And we are doing a series of such sessions. Someone has already shared different things that we are doing. And there is a WhatsApp community that we have built. Again, that's a great network for everyone to be in, where also we will be sharing different analysis, different things that we'll be doing. Anything else, feel free to reach out. We are more than happy to answer your questions and help you through your career journeys. Thank you so much. Over to you, Suman.
Thank you everyone for joining. I'm just sharing the WhatsApp community link. If you haven't joined yet, you can join. And also please fill the feedback form. It will be helpful for us to bring, more sessions which you guys are interested in. So thank you. Thank you everyone. Have a good weekend.